Welcome on Texas football. Happy Saturday morning to everybody. It's time for the Saturday conversation. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Gerry Hamilton. This episode brought to you by our friends Dr. Mark Malone and the guys over at Advanced Pain Care. We'll talk to you a little bit more about them later in the show. But Gerry, as we get ready for the scrimmage later today, and we'll have more from that scrimmage, Steve Sarkisian meets with the media right around noon today. We'll have a live update from there for everybody. I figured that we would go back to that Ohio State game a couple of years last year. Texas on the goal line, second and goal from the 2. But I'm going to ask you a different question. Given what we've heard this week from Cedric Baxter and what we heard last week in the scrimmage, first and goal from the 1 against Ohio State in the first quarter or second quarter, who are you going with? Is it Cedric Baxter? Is it Trey Wisner? Is it the tush push with Arch Manning? What's your decision there, buddy?
I think Sark's going to go, assuming there's no setbacks with Cedric Baxter. I think he's the pile pusher, the inside runner, the guy who's the best red zone touchdown scoring back on this team, at least going into the year, assuming he doesn't have a setback again. I also think it would be a little bit symbolic for Sark, that, hey, look, this guy has come back from a major injury. He worked his way back. He's gotten himself in a position to be ready to play against Ohio State. And I think from the 1 yard line on first and goal, I think Sark is not going to be able to pass up the opportunity to hand the ball off to Cedric Baxter and see if he can punch it in for this team, because what it would do for this team.
You know what I'm going to bet large money on? It's not going to be an outside pitch to Trey Wisner.
No, it's not.
I don't think that's what's coming. But I brought this up not to set the table back a year and into that game in January 10th, where the Longhorns couldn't punch it in. I actually brought it up because of exactly what you're talking about. Cedric Baxter went to the mic this week and talked at length about his return to the team and what it meant to him. I still think that we could talk about it until we're blue in the face, but for a young man to take and do what he's done and get himself prepared at this level, to where he can even play and contemplating playing after tearing your LCL. I mean, it's just people don't understand. It's not a normal or typical ACL injury. It can be really devastating for a young man. Yet what we're hearing right now is that he is going to get some play. Now, it may be 1 to 3 carries. It may be 5. It may be 10. They're not going to give him a heavy load early in the year. But the fact of the matter is he's a part of this team, and they see a definite role early for Cedric Baxter, potentially, as long as he stays healthy, knock on wood a little bit. And I think that that's what I want to start this segment with when we talk about the run game. We got some other stats I want to get into. But the feel-good story of this team, in my opinion, it right now revolves around Cedric Baxter and his return from injury.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, he is a great leader. He is a big part of this locker room at Texas. He did this in high school. He was a great leader from the running back position at Edgewater High. I've told that story many times. I don't need to go over it, but I think the way he's handled everything with the injury let's go back. Starting his first game as a freshman at the University of Texas at running back. Go ahead and go down the list of guys that have done that. It's really, 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 really short. But doing that, okay, then Jonathan Brooks takes that job. What does that slow down Cedric Baxter in his approach to the game? Does it set him back? No, it doesn't. He's a great teammate. He picks up the slack after Brooks' ACL injury, has the big game.
Yep, Jonathan Brooks, yep.
Yeah, after Brooks' injury, has the big game when Texas needs it. Then he gets injured. And the way he's handled that, through that year, he was already starting to take on a leadership role in the program. But through that year, I think it went to another level. And it shows how much this staff loves him. Because I've been predicting, even if he didn't play, it wouldn't have shocked me if he didn't walk out as a captain in that game, just for the team. Even if he was a number 4 running back in that game and an emergency guy. But I just think everything he's done, he is doing everything Steve Sarkisian asked of his players, and he's doing it like he's the 80th best player on this roster, not a guy that started his first game his freshman year. And I think that means a heck of a lot in the NIL era for this Texas staff.
Yeah, he's acting hungry.
Yeah.
He's not acting complacent. He's not acting like he's been there before. You know what I mean? And I think that is good. We've got some stats coming up. I want to give people a sense of what Texas lost in Cedric Baxter. As a true freshman, he went 138 for 659. Okay. 5 rushing touchdowns. That's 4.8 yards a pop. Also had 24 catches out of the backfield. So he was a productive player as a true freshman. If Texas can get those numbers for him while returning Trey Wisner, I want to talk about that first. Before we get to last year's stats and probably what we expect this year from the run game based on different personnel along the offensive line, as well as the return of Cedric Baxter, I want to say thank you to our sponsor, Dr. Mark Malone, and the folks at Advanced Pain Care.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
Colt and Vince aren't the only ones that still have pains, and I didn't even play football at that level. Look, I was going to go in and talk about this, Jerry, and really go into it. Let's talk about the Texas run game.
Yeah.
Average, even though Trey Wisner went over 1,000 last year, the run game as a whole was average at best, ranking 69th in the country in yards rushing per game, 158.9. They were 64th in the country in number of rushes per game at 36.4. So they weren't even average for the amount of rushes they had. They actually a little bit low. And then yards per rush, they were also 64th in the country. That's pretty telling in that Texas had a makeshift run game last year. They really did when they lost Cedric Baxter. I mentioned Cedric Baxter stats, 138 for 659, 4.8 as a true freshman. So that's 2 years ago. Wisner last year, very similar numbers, 1,064 on 256 carries, 5 TDs, 1 TD receiving. Baxter as a freshman averaged 4.8 yards per carry. Wisner last year averaged 4.7. So literally 0.1 difference between the two. What do you think of the Texas run game? A lot has been made. Hey, we should be able to run the ball differently this year because we have a different center, and one of the guards is who was a better pass protector necessarily than a run blocker, should be able to push on people a little bit more. Even so, with all of that, Jerry, what are you actually expecting from the run game? Are they going to be better than 69th in the country this year?
I think a lot of this is going to depend on Arch in the downfield passing game for Texas. If Arch in this receiver core has success, and even tight ends down the field this year, I think we're hearing a lot about Texas under center more, right? And so the true play action game and vertical passing game, if that comes back to Sark's offense with Arch, that's going to help the run game as much as a healthy Cedric Baxter is going to help the run game. If Cedric Baxter comes back to close to what he was.
Is that because it'll take the linebackers be a little bit more
safety depth? Because teams weren't scared of being beat over the top against Texas last year. And so they played a lot of beat Texas to the landmarks, and they could cheat the run game a little bit because Texas led the nation in pass attempts under 5 yards last year. And that was an extension of the run game a lot of times. So everything was around the line of scrimmage. So your linebackers don't have to take the extra step of depth. One of those safeties can play closer to the box without worry a lot of times or within your coverage. I think this year, if Arch, Sark, and these wide receivers have success down the field like they're going to want to, I think that's going to open up the run game as much as the personnel. And then from there, I think you'd see your backs maybe get over that 5-point average in yards per carry.
I want to say this, and I think it's important to note. They lost Jaden Blue as well, but Jaden Blue did a lot of his work out of the backfield as a receiver. But the bigger thing I'm looking at right now when it comes to run game isn't just keeping those linebackers or safeties deeper or making them respect the play action. It's going to be the quarterback himself. Last year, Quinn Ewers rushed 57 times, Jerry, for negative 82 yards. Now, I want to say this, 37 of those rush attempts were sacks.
Right.
So really, he only took off and ran 20 times a year ago. But still, that equated to negative 82 yards. And Quinn only rushed for 2 touchdowns. What is the over and under, in your opinion, for how many touchdown rushes Arch may have in comparison? And is he going to get sacked 37 times, even with a less experienced quarterback, an offensive line to accompany him? I'm saying that as we look at rushing stats, don't forget about the quarterback, because I have a hard time believing Arch Manning's going to end this year with negative yards rushing, even accounting for sacks like it did with Quinn Ewers.
Yeah, if he does, something's really gone wrong for Texas, and they're probably not a playoff team if Arch is negative 82 rushing yards, because he's going to get more positive rushing yards, which means you'd have a lot more sack yardage. So it would not have gone well. But yeah, I agree, and I think even though it's not going to be designed QB run, what I think Arch does for the run game, and by the way, if you said a number, I'd say 6.5 rushing touchdowns for him. And that's not
compared to 2 for Quinn.
Yeah, it's not called QB run game stuff necessarily. It's just playing on the move, right? It's in the red zone waggles, and where the ball was going to be coming out of Quinn's hand. Well, now that defenders this year know Arch can get the ball to the pylon, right, on a waggle going either way. So that's a little different. But I think moving the pocket a little bit, right? What Arch can do with his feet is also going to help is going to kind of be a byproduct that help your run game, because again, there's going to have to be more discipline from the linebackers and the safeties against Texas and the edges against Texas this year because of the quarterback mobility. And that means Sark can scheme more things up in the run game using Arch's feet, using that ability to waggle in things such as that, using a little bit of the play action game, a little bit more of the RPO game with Arch. I think there's a lot of factors that lead us down the path of Texas should be more effective running the football. But again, I do want to say that only happens if your guard center guard handle business up front.
Okay. I want to add this because I think it's important. We talked about Cedric Baxter. We talk about Arch Manning's impact on the run game, both as a runner and his ability for play action and deep shots, et cetera. I want to add this. Trey Wisner had a breakout year last year.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, unquestionably, one of the surprises of the football team. Let's not forget about him this year.
Oh.
Because he is, and I think that fans need to know this. Based on the practices you and I went and saw, what we saw in the spring from him, he is a different looking guy than he was a year ago. Yes, he's the same kind of back, and he's kind of a slasher type, right? Physically, he has more armor on right now. I try to explain this, like his neck is starting to V instead of just being straight down. I mean, and so I want to say this. I think he's already a hard-nosed player. I think he's going to be even better this year. I don't know if he'll get the same amount of yardage, because I think it could be running back by committee a little bit more than what it was a year ago when he took the lion's share from Jaden Blue. But I think that Trey Wisner is kind of that, and I want to say this right, kind of the silent assassin of that running back field, because he's the guy that everybody's looking at Cedric Baxter right now and his comeback. Everybody's talking about Arch Manning. Trey Wisner, a pretty good football player, and I think he's getting better.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think he's going to be a better player than he was a year ago. And look, I think what I could see a similar number of carries for him throughout the season, as long as, because the other thing is, I think third and fourth team, they're going to have better depth, knock on wood, if there's no injuries in the Saturday scrimmage, right? They're going to have more depth at the running back position this year. So I think these guys are going to be fresher at times as well. And Trey Wisner, I think, is going to set up to have another 1,000-yard season in my mind, as long as he stays healthy again. as a better running back. And I think he's going to get more help behind him, if that makes sense. Because look, I appreciate Jaden Blue in the pass game. I appreciate his big playability.
Enormous, yeah.
Yeah, but as a consistent running back, Trey Wisner didn't have any help last year on this team because Jaden Blue was not a consistent running back runner with the football. He had the big game against Clemson, right? But, you look at the rest of it, 4 for 16 Ohio State, 4 for 4 Arizona State, 2 for 2 Georgia, 5 for 7 A&M. I mean, he had a pretty good game against Kentucky, and Arkansas only carried it 5 times against Florida, none against Georgia the first time because he'd had the ball security issues against Mississippi State, only carried it 6. So it was very inconsistent as a runner from Jaden Blue. I actually think he's going to have Wisner's going to have more help around him from the running standpoint, and that's going to help him be a better player.
Yeah, and you mentioned those other ones. Let's add that in, and based on what we're hearing, and obviously the scrimmage today will impact what we're hearing. Again, we'll hear from Sark around noon today. We'll bring you guys live coverage of that after immediately following Sark's meeting with the media. But what I wanted to say as it relates to that, Christian Clark, we have heard a number of good things from last weekend and during the scrimmage, but also leading up to that. We've heard good things at times about Jarrett Gibson, at times about James Simon. That is the depth. Could Christian Clark be that guy on 1st and goal at the 1?
As long as ball protection, as long as he protects the ball.
Yeah.
It's possible, right? That's the thing with the young backs. This will be whenever he gets into a game, it'll be his first time.
Yeah, it's true. Even though he's a redshirt.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he missed a whole year with an injury. So this will be his first carry, will be his first carry in a football game whenever that happens for him. So he's got to get past that young back ball protection thing that every young back has to get past. If he gets past that, then I think he's got a chance to really help this team, because I do think he brings a different dynamic to the run game than Jaden Blue did, and then did Jarrett Gibson does. They're different type of backs. So, and Jarrett Gibson being a year older, if he's past his ball security issues, I think he can help Texas. So I think and James Simons was really good in the spring, and I think he's probably good again, but you're just not going to hear a lot about it with the Cedric Baxter and Trey Wisner and Christian Clark and those guys getting most of the attention. But I think Texas just has a better group of runners this year with the football. Group of runners.
I think you're right a little bit. And this is what I was trying to say when I was talking about Trey Wisner. Don't forget about him. And I'm not saying Texas fans are. I mean, it's just the resurgence of Cedric Baxter is overshadowing other aspects of the run game.
Yeah.
And the fact that Texas didn't have that big power back last year when they desperately needed it on the goal line against Ohio State. And so for all of that, to add it all together, Jerry, I think that makes sense. What about this? What is a good goal for Texas? It's not 69th in the country in rushing in 2025. It's just not. Top 50, top 40. What are you thinking makes sense for this Texas team?
And I think with Arch being a first-year starting quarterback, I think the better the run game stats are, the better it's going to be for him. Because I think taking pressure off of Arch is very key in his first year starting, because he's still – I know it's Manning on the back, and I know it's 16, but he still hasn't – he started 2 games. And there's going to be some ups and downs that come with that in a young quarterback. So the better Texas runs the more consistently they run the football, the better the more that's going to help Arch Manning. So I think Sark's going to lean into that.
Yeah,
I think he's going to try to lean into that to help his young quarterback. Because I think the scenario Sark doesn't want is Arch throwing it 45 times at Florida, 45 times at Georgia. I don't think that's the winning combination. So they're going to have to run the football. And I do think you're going to see Texas, hopefully, if everything comes together, average more in that 175, 178 range rushing.
Per game instead of 158, they average.
Yeah, if they can get up 20 more yards per game on average, I think they're probably controlling the game a little bit more. They're probably helping a first-year starting quarterback a little bit more. and that's probably more the formula that Texas is looking for this year.
I would concur with that and hope that it does happen for Texas, because you got to add this. I mean, Texas should have a stout defense again this year.
Yes.
So you definitely don't want Arch throwing it 45 times a game.
No.
You want to be able to lean on the rock a little bit. And I mentioned this on one of our Coffee and Footballs earlier this week, how I was talking with Brooks Austin, or texting with Brooks Austin, the film guy. And he said one of the things that he saw from Cedric Baxter in 2023, he said that Cedric Baxter was like the icer.
Yeah.
The guy that finished the game out for Texas when they needed to have 2 and 3 yards on 2nd and 1 or 3rd and 2. He was the guy they looked to kind of ice the game. Did it 7 or 8 times in a row, carries against Iowa State, and to stave off that team in 2023. So I think all in all, this could be a different run game, and there's just a multitude of aspects to it. We mentioned the personnel and even talk about the quarterback, and then there's the offensive line as well. So it should be a new look offensive run game for Steve Sarkisian. The key is it can't be 69th in the country. If they do that, I'm not sure they go back to the college football playoffs. They got to have more from the run game than that, especially if they have the personnel to get that done. All right, that's going to do it for this Saturday morning conversation. Thank you so much. Again, we'll be back a little later today. Steve Sarkisian meets with the media. They're getting started early this morning at DKR for the scrimmage. It'll be the second and final scrimmage of the campaign. We'll talk about that. I also want to say thank you once again to Advanced Pain Care, Dr. Mark Malone and his group. Same and next day appointments now available. 512-244-4272. That's 512-244-4272. For Gerry Hamilton, as well as our producer, Matt Hutchinson, I'm Bobby Burton. You guys have a good weekend. Hook 'em horns.